With us today we have Senate Resolution number 5, and it's pretty straightforward. It asked the federal government to support offshore oil leases off the Arctic, not to take them off the targeted lease sales in 2017 and 2022 on the outer continental shelf. And even though we have hopefully just a few short years of these low prices, because obviously it's a price-sensitive, expensive environment out there, eventually the hydrocarbon price structure will change and it'll be more favorable to the Arctic. But if we don't move forward, Mr. President, and keep these leases on track, what we risk is a huge delay factor in implementing the development of it. If you're looking at 10 years, and if we have a 5-year delay from now, or a 10-year delay from now before they come back in to do these leases, we get out of synchronization with other developments around the country. And the forecast that the U.S. Energy Information Agency is looking at is actually a slowdown in shale gas development or shale oil development out 15, 20 years. And we want to have our frontier basins in place, ready to go to supplement additional oil production when that time frame comes. Also, there's a movement around the country to move away from fossil fuels. But if we just take a moment and kind of put it in context, we in the United States, our oil dependency is declining. That's pretty clear. The areas outside, especially the developing world, it's increasing, not decreasing. And the global projection for oil demand is for it to increase over the next several decades, not decrease. And those that want to completely walk away from the hydrocarbon world, they can certainly hope to move in that direction. But the economic reality is jet airplanes fly on it. They don't fly on solar panels. They don't fly on wind. You reach in your pocket and you pull out your iPhone. Without petroleum, that iPhone wouldn't be there. You look at the military movement of our naval fleet and our aircraft, jet aircraft in the Air Force. You look at energy producing generation plants in Alaska. There's just no way that we're going to move the economy to alternative fuels at 100% and not need access to the Arctic. When we just take a look at the position of the state of Alaska on the globe, we're going to have development of the Arctic off of Siberia, Norway, Greenland, Canada. It would be unconscionable for the state of Alaska to ignore this and not urge the federal government to move forward with our offshore. We need a base up there, as we've talked about here for a few years in the Senate. We need the ability to respond if there's an incident, no matter if it's off of Siberia or Greenland. An incident being an environmental incident, and that could be directly with oil and gas extraction, or it could be a cruise ship going through, hitting an iceberg. We have basically a high exposure with the Coast Guard in the time delay that it takes them to respond into the Arctic. Without an offshore lease and a major find to make it economic, none of the other smaller fields get developed. None of the big infrastructure gets put in place. And that doesn't even account for the folks that live in the Arctic, and I recognize my constituents are on the southern end, not on the northern end of the state. But the offshore would bring a higher standard of living for all of Alaskans, including the people I represent in the southern side. It would help move Western Alaska to a cash economy. It would increase the shipment of goods and services, which would lower the costs. And we could go on for hours, Mr. President, on the benefits of opening the Arctic. I'd also like to mention that the National Petroleum Council has issued a report that they started at the request of the Secretary of Energy to look at opening the Arctic in an environmentally responsible way. And that report was out about a year ago. We've all have copies of it. It's online at the National Petroleum Council. The Arctic can be opened with current technology. It is shallow, 100 meters, 30 fathoms or so. There is some challenges with some ice and lack of infrastructure, regulatory environment challenges, and things of that nature. But it is the most prosperous opportunity that the state and the federal government has to move forward and secure a national energy supply to keep the United States and help with the rest of North America, Canada, Mexico, energy independent. And with that, Mr. President, I urge support of this resolution. There is companies that have worked up there previously, Shell, for example, that is very interested in that basin still, and we should do everything we can to support the stabilization and the movement forward to develop our Arctic. Thank you, Mr. President.